Okay, 1 second. All right. Hello, everyone. Super excited for this one. We have the OpenChat founder, Amish.
Hello, co-founder.
Co-founder,
yeah,
co-founder.
3 of us.
And yeah, we'll wait 2 more minutes and we will start the conversation. We actually use OpenChat as kind of a demonstration. Like when you join the bootcamp, you have to go through a deploy first application stage, which gives you access to OpenChat link, registration link, and then you can join the group and continue your journey, kind of.
Nice.
Okay, yeah. So let's go. My first questions were about your team. So like, how did you guys met and what kind of led you to create OpenChat?
Yeah, so there's 3 of us. We've been building OpenChat for 2.5 years, I think. 2.5 years roughly. We all worked together in our previous job. We worked together for about 7-8 years, I think, in just a Web 2 world, for a company called Donata Travel. So very different to OpenChat. But Matt, one of the other co-founders, he in the past had worked with Dom, the founder of Dfinity. They had worked together on various startups. Some of them have been quite successful. They built a few games as well, like Fight My Monster is probably their main one. But then they went their separate ways. But then out of the blue, Dom just messaged Matt and said, hello, I'm building this thing. I need some good devs. And Matt jumped on a call with him, and Dom told him all about Internet Computer. Matt then told me. Then both the 2 of us had a call with Dom, and we then quit our job about 2 days later or so. And then a few months later, we also persuaded Julian. So Julian, we'd all worked together for many years, but then Julian had quit and moved to another job about a year before Dom reached out to Matt. So Matt and I both quit at the same time. Our manager wasn't happy. And then about a few months later, Julian joined. And before Julian joined, we'd been building like a very simple proof of concept of OpenChat, all running in. So at the moment, we have like loads of canisters. Every user has their own canister. Before, we had like a very just simple proof of concept. Wouldn't really scale very far, but it could at least just show it working and show the latency. And, we could build the UI around it.
And so I guess that was even before mainnet launch, or
yeah. And so yeah, we were in a bit of a unique position because Matt knew Dom, and Dom was looking to get external developers to build on the Internet Computer. And so Dfinity actually funded us while we built OpenChat. We predated the grants program. So, had we joined 6 months later or so, then we would have gone through the grants program, but we predated that. So we were just funded by Dfinity while we built it. And obviously, since we did the SNS, OpenChat now has its own treasury of ICP. So we're completely independent from Dfinity now. But yeah, and so we built that early version for 3 months or something. And we would demo it to Dom every fortnight or so, and just show the progress. And then when Julian joined, we came up with a plan for like, right, how can we take this to just millions, maybe billion, you know, who knows, of users? Like, what can we do to make this scale? And so rather than having all of our users in one canister, how we did originally, we decided to go with one user in. Each user has their own canister, and that has quite a few advantages. It also potentially has a few disadvantages in terms of if the internet computer, if a subnet has a million canisters, it, even if a canister is idle, it uses up a bit of computing power on the internet computer currently. This, you know, this will, as time goes on, everything will be getting optimized. But right now, if we had a million users, we would need to occupy many subnets, which isn't ideal. Whereas in the future, once these optimizations and further optimizations that Dfinity haven't got planned yet, but once all these optimizations are done, an idle canister should, in theory, have negligible cost. And at that point, there's only advantages for us for having these one user per canister. It makes the access control very easy.
Because right now, OpenChat is in one subnet, right? You have
we're in
everything
two.
in one. You have two subnets.
So when we hit about 80 or 90,000 canisters on a subnet, the subnet was going really slowly. The finalizer, you know, each round would take maybe 2 seconds rather than 1 second, and that wasn't too bad. But every checkpoint, which is supposedly every 5 minutes, for us it would be maybe every 10 minutes because the rounds were longer. Each checkpoint would take over a minute, and it just meant that for that minute, nothing would get processed. And this is just because it was having to go through all of the canisters and do all of these computations that were fine when there's a small number of canisters, but it would add up when we had 100,000 canisters.
So you're referring to the catch-up packages that are created like every 5 minutes by the subnet?
Yeah, so they call it checkpointing, which is basically when the whole state is hashed and you get an output of that checkpoint is a catch-up package, but there's also other stuff that's done. And that process was really slow. And so rather than add more users to that same subnet, we made a proposal to give the OpenChat principal permissions to start creating canisters on a new subnet. And so right now we're on 2, and ideally we would just keep building up canisters on those 2, and hopefully we won't need to go to a 3rd anytime soon. Well, hopefully, you know, as more efficiencies are made to the internet computer, as we get near the subnet limits, they'll make performance improvements, and then we aren't near the limits again. And so eventually, ideally, we'd have millions of canisters per subnet. We couldn't right now, but you know, in the future, we hopefully by the time we have millions of users, we can have millions of user canisters per subnet, and so it shouldn't be an issue. But you know, that is going to require a lot of complex work being done on Dfinity's side, but they have a lot of good devs, so I'm sure they will manage.
Yeah, that's the whole thing about building on a platform like the internet computer is constantly, like, the underlying protocols constantly being upgraded. So as a developer, you also have you have to take into account that things are moving. For example, this
like
morning
when
we were studying stable memory, and well, essentially, like, in a few months, the previous kind of approach I took in the bootcamps, which is to use pre-upgrade and post-upgrade, is not longer needed because we have stable structures in Motoko, which was not the case like 6 months ago. So
like when we first started building OpenChat, like the tooling and everything made it really hard, whereas now things are much better. Like just getting up and running is so much easier. There's much better documentation and examples, and you know, the whole thing just runs smoother as well. Like in the 2.5 years we've been building on it, it's come along massively. And I'm sure in the next 2.5 years, it will also continue to improve massively.
Yeah. We already have a question. I think it's kind of related, so I will ask it now. What kind of tools do you use to monitor canisters and subnets? And yeah, kind of general question, but what actions did you take to improve your architecture, I guess?
Yeah. So before we were on multiple subnets, like when we were only on one subnet, just we could feel when using OpenChat, we could just feel it getting slower and there'd be more latency when sending messages. And so just by looking on the Internet Computer dashboard, in fact, I can pull up a link and put it in the chat.
And if you want to share your screen as well.
Yeah. Close that. Okay, so our subnet, well, we have two subnets. So we have this one, 2FQ7, but the larger one is EQ6. Yeah. So this one, so now this looks like it's running nicely. This looks relatively smooth, which is what you want to see. There's a little dip there, but realistically, that looks like it's running pretty smooth. Before, when our subnet was really struggling, you could see it would be going along at maybe like 0.5, 0.6, and then during a checkpoint, it would just drop completely, and it would be down for like 2-3 minutes, and or maybe not 2-3, like a minute or two, and then it would come back up, and it would be really jagged. It wasn't smooth because it was just really struggling. And then so we stopped running on that subnet. In fact, we might be able to go back and see it. So I think, was it around here? It could be around here. Because this is on 1 year, you wouldn't really be able to see the little spikes,
Yeah.
because it's not granular enough. Or can you? No, you can't. But basically, it was going really slow, and although it says 0.69, 0.7, the issue was that we'd have breaks of like a minute or two when nothing would work, and that was the issue. And so since then, it must have been around here. Well, I'm sure it was exactly there where Dfinity made some checkpointing improvements, and they've made other improvements along the way as well. And before this, like over the 2.5 years, we've we've hit the subnet limits like quite a few times, and then they'll prioritize some work to increase those limits. But this is basically what we use to see if our subnet is running fine, and this is what we use to check the memory is all looking fine. Like actually in a release we did, yeah, that was a mistake by me. When reading from stable memory during upgrades, I was allocating a 1 meg buffer for every user canister. I was like, oh, this will be quicker, just put the 1 meg buffer. But the thing is, most of the canisters didn't have anywhere close to 1 meg in stable memory. And so it was allocating the 1 meg, only reading a tiny amount. But from that point on, you've still got the 1 meg allocated. And so in the subsequent release after that, I made it so that it would first read the size of stable memory, and then the buffer would be up to 1 meg. But it was a quarter of the size of stable memory up to 1 meg. So there would be at most 4 reads. No, there could be more if the state was more than 4 meg. But it just meant, this came way back down.
So essentially, you were allocating memory that was not needed at the time.
Yeah.
For each canister. And since you
Yeah.
have like, I guess, 80,000 canister in this subnet, that was quite a lot of megabytes. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically added like close to 70 gig or so. But this is all we use to monitor the health of our subnet. It's all we have. It's all this is the public dashboard. We also have on every canister we have like a metrics endpoint, so we can see this is on our user index. So we can see we've got 112,000 users. You can see like the version it's on, the git commit. So like every canister exposes this metrics. It also exposes logs. Um, yeah, this is an old error.
Okay,
Which
this is super interesting. So yeah, you have a
so
general log for the whole system, and then each canister, each user, I guess, and group as
yeah,
by
what
the way,
we
can we go into more details? Like what type of canisters do you have? Like I guess you have a general one for kind of monitoring and synchronizing, and then one per
no,
user. No? Okay.
we could do with that. So at the moment, every individual canister exposes a metrics endpoint and a logs endpoint, but we don't aggregate that anywhere. But this is something
Okay.
we know we need to do, because really it means that we can only dig into an error if someone raises it to us. Like, for example, if someone says, I can't create a group, we can look in their own canister to see if there's an error message. But we can't, because there's no aggregated place and we've got, over 100,000 canisters, we can't exactly just look at each one manually. But this is something we know we need to do. But so, for example, this one we're looking at right now, this is our group index. And so this one is, be saying like, so what's this? Okay, so this error would have just happened because this canister was being upgraded. And then the next log message is saying that we upgraded the canisters. So some of them are just info level, some are error. We also actually have like a test deployment of OpenChat running on mainnet test.oc.app. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have announced. Don't register on this.
Okay.
But all of the canisters there, as well as exposing metrics and logs, they also expose trace, and so we can see every single call between the canisters. We don't log this on mainnet because on mainnet, obviously, the calls between canisters could contain like user messages and just it's basically an invasion of privacy. Like, we make sure that all of our log messages never contain
Yeah.
anything other than just exactly if an error happened, but it wouldn't contain anything that's like personally identifiable.
Yeah, makes
And
sense.
so this is really useful. Like, whenever we do an upgrade to our prod setup, we first do it to our test setup twice, because we need to run the pre and post upgrade code. We've got burned by that in the past, and so now we always do the upgrade twice. And then we use it a bit and we can look in the trace to see if there's, just make sure everything's working fine. If everything's working fine, we can then make the proposals to upgrade the production setup. And in fact, I was actually doing
Okay.
that literally just
Can we
before.
can we go again into the whole process of like what does it look like for OpenChat to upgrade their application? Like how does it start? Where do you do the commit? What kind of
Yeah.
tests do you run? I want to know like everything
Yeah,
as
yeah,
much as possible.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. So this is our code base. This is the OpenChat code. This is all of the code. So this is front end, back end, all of our various canisters. We have all of the external canisters that we interact with, but just their APIs. Um, so we have all these integration tests, and these integration tests are using a thing called Pocket IC,
Okay.
where Pocket IC is basically a it's like the core of the internet computer, but without all of the cryptography, without having to go through consensus. It's basically a single instance. Um, it doesn't verify any of the. It's a very lightweight, minimal internet computer core, and so you can send it update requests and query requests. So let's look at maybe like send direct message test. This one's probably a quite simple one. So um,
So
there is quite a bit of like setup here, but
those tests they don't have the latency of update calls, I guess. You can.
No, so these are really quick. When you make an update call, it's just immediately applied. There's no consensus or anything that it goes through. So this is just as fast as executing a normal Rust function. You know that it's synchronous as well.
Okay.
And
So all
so
of this suite of tests is going to run, I guess. How much
yeah,
time it takes?
so
It's
all of these tests, well, let's see. Oh, oops. So we run them in GitHub on every pull request. So if we look at some of the ones that have just been closed. So, okay, so this took 15 minutes, but building the WASMs took 11 minutes, and then running the tests only took 3 minutes. So, well, yeah, that doesn't matter. Yeah, so running the tests locally, if you've already got all the WASMs built, is 3 minutes or so. But also, we never really run all the tests locally. You'd probably only run the tests that you've just made. But yeah, so what we would do if we want to do an upgrade is we make the change locally. We would run OpenChat locally. So I might have it running now, actually. Yeah, so I've got DFX running here, and I've got npm. You just do npm run dev, and then we can spin up a local OpenChat, and anyone can run this. So this is just a local version of OpenChat with my really good messages. And so to set up the full local environment, you can just run scripts deploy local, and you literally just run that. And what it will do is it will download all of the latest compiled WASMs from GitHub, and then just install them as needed. What you can also do is you can download the WASMs at any commit that you like. You can just put in the commit ID. So I have to put default there. That's just which internet identity to use. But then I can pull out any commit.
Why is the internet identity used here? It's the
you have to
you
make
mean the canister or the
sorry, not the internet, the DFX identity.
Okay.
So this is just the name of the DFX identity, and then I can just pass in any commit ID, and it will use that commit ID. And what's actually quite cool is we have this file, this canister commit IDs, and every time we do a release, this file is automatically updated with the latest commit ID. And so what you can do is, rather than specifying the commit ID, you can say prod, and then it will install. So it will download each of the canisters specified in this file, which are all of the ones. So you see it's downloading each of them at, oh, yeah, we haven't deployed that one yet. Let's ignore that. It normally works. And so what's really good about that is although we can't mimic the live state, we can mimic the live canisters. And so we can see, like, can we upgrade this one and still have everything work with everything else in the state that it is in production? So that's really useful. Where were we? Yeah, talking about upgrades. So we would make the code change. We then make a pull request, which needs to be approved by one of the other two. So there's 3 of us building this, and so we all approve each other's pull requests, which is good because it means we all are kind of aware of the goings on in all of the areas of the app. And so then once the pull request gets merged if the pull request gets merged. Then GitHub will build the WASMs. We can build them locally if we want. We normally just build them in GitHub. And then once the WASMs are built, we would push them to our test setup. We would deploy them just by running. We have scripts for this, so we would do script upgrade canister prod test, and then you just say like the version number you want, and then the commit ID. And so what this is saying is use DFX identity. I have one called OpenChat, which is just what we use for deploying to the OpenChat test setup. Obviously, we can't deploy to the OpenChat prod test. We can't deploy to the prod setup this way because now that we've done the SNS, we are no longer the controllers of those canisters. The controller of the canister is the SNS governance canister, SNS root canister. No, SNS root canister. But for deploying to our test setup, we just do it like this. And then we make sure that everything is working properly on the test setup. And then when we want to push a proposal to prod, I'll just have it in my history somewhere. Yeah, so we just run another script. I can just run this, in fact, because it will prompt me before it does anything. Come on. In fact, this will go a lot quicker if I stop running DFX and I stop running this. Yeah, so what this has now done.
So you're upgrading the live tests.
This would actually update the prod one if I said yes. So I'm gonna say no on that. But basically, by running this script, it will build the proposal to send to the SNS governance canister. And we have this summary file, which I just update each time we want to do an upgrade. Like, to be honest, we've done this so many times now that it's no slower now that we are in the SNS world than it was when we would just upgrade it directly. Because in both scenarios, we simply run a script. The only difference is, so it uses up just as much of our own time. The only difference is that obviously it then has to go through the voting period. But while it's being voted on, it's not wasting our time. We just get on with the next thing. So actually, since switching to SNS, we haven't slowed down at all. Maybe
that's
maybe we did. We probably
beginning
did a little bit while we just got all of these scripts set up. But now that we've got everything set up and we're happy with them, like we are, just fully, we're not held back by this at all.
Okay, great. So yeah, obviously you have built like a lot of architecture, and it's impressive. Now I want to talk a bit more about the chat token and the OpenChat DAO. I'm curious how you guys see like kind of the future, like, because obviously it's really hard to, like, for a solo developer or for another team to contribute to OpenChat right now. I guess there are like huge barriers.
Yeah.
But do you have maybe like an extension system that like other people could plug in, or like I'm curious how you see like this aspect.
Yeah, and we know this is an issue. So we have had quite a few people contribute, but not to like the core. We've had people contribute in translations. We've had people contribute with like community themes. So Julian, he's primarily doing our front end stuff. He has kind of written a guide for how anyone can create their own theme. And we know that we need to basically do the same thing for just getting OpenChat fully set up locally and being able to test, like make changes and test those changes, because we'd happily accept PRs. Like we have accepted little pull requests with little fixes from people, but no one's really like, working on the core other than the three of us. But yeah,
Yeah,
we do
I guess
want,
they would also need kind of an incentive from
yeah,
like, yeah, I mean, this is so um like basically my whole thing is like, I think DAOs are also a social kind of construction, and I guess that
yeah,
like we have the technical aspect now, which I think is amazing, but how do we move to the next level, which is really the question, and it's very hard, of course. Yeah, so yeah,
yeah.
let's go maybe to more concrete questions. So can you explain what's the role of the chat token and how it works, and what's the business model of OpenChat?
Yeah, so chat token is it's a governance token. The whole service is controlled through the token. In order to vote on proposals, anyone can, well, to vote on proposals, you must stake chat tokens and lock them up for at least 1 month. You can lock them for up to 1 year. Like with ICP, you can lock it up to 8 years. But when we were setting up our SNS configuration, we thought 8 years is too long. We wanted people to receive full voting rewards for just locking up for 1 year. And so to the chat token can be used to you lock it up into neurons, and you can then vote on proposals which guide the direction that OpenChat goes in. And for doing so, you receive voting rewards in the form of neuron maturity, but that can then be converted to more chat tokens. So it's essentially like you're earning interest as you you help guide the future of OpenChat. The chat token can obviously also just be held, you know, and speculate on it if people want to, in the
I'm
same
sharing
way
my
that any
my
cryptocurrency
screen.
can be. But
So
primarily its use cases as a governance token. Soon, we will have premium features which are payable in chat. Currently, our premium features are payable in ICP, but we want to change that. Yeah.
okay, cool. Uh, so my other questions were, well, maybe about the SNS, like how was the process? Do you have any recommendation for someone that would like to go through SNS? And yeah, how much time did it take for your team?
Yeah. So I guess the hardest part was working out how we were going to configure the SNS. There's a lot of parameters that you need to decide upon. And to be honest, we weren't expert, or we still aren't really experts now. A lot of the values that we chose were very kind of just ballpark
Yeah.
figures. We were
Do
like,
you have
yeah,
specific like values and numbers and parameters? Like,
yeah,
can you give some example? But I know
yeah,
that everyone is kind of figuring out, like no one is
yeah.
kind of an expert. So
Yeah, well, we have like an SNS config file in our repo which anyone can take a look at. But there's things like the voting reward rate, the amount of new chat tokens that are minted each year as voting rewards. You can specify how much. So obviously, if you set that higher, then people are more incentivized to lock up their tokens, but then equally you're inflating the circulating supply quicker. You can
is
decide on thing.
is this parameter here?
Yeah, do you see their reward rate?
Oh, reward weight.
2.5%.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
yeah.
like for Dfinity, for ICP, they made it so that the reward rate started at 10%, and then over 8 years, over 4 years, 5 years, I'm not sure. It goes from 10% to 5%, and then stays at 5% forever. We decided to just keep it really simple, just 2.5%. Obviously, this can be adjusted by proposal, which would have to be approved by the SNS. But then there's also things you can decide upon, such as the maximum neuron age. We decided 1 year. Then there's things like the max dissolve delay bonus. And so you can see there it's 100% the max dissolve delay bonus. And what that means is that if you lock up your chat neuron for 1 year, you receive 100% more voting power as a bonus. And the higher your voting power is, the more chat token rewards you are given. The two are directly proportional. So if you double your voting power, you get double the rewards. Then there's other things you need to configure, like the minimum neuron stake, the cost if you make a proposal that is rejected. But to be honest, like these, I think even if you do get these wrong, like picking these shouldn't really hinder you from creating an SNS if you wanted to go for an SNS, because realistically there's no right answer. And they can all be tweaked in the future if people in taking part in your SNS's community are all saying, oh, this is wrong, then you can change it.
Yeah.
Obviously it's good to get it roughly right, because then people are going to be more incentivized to actually take part in your SNS.
I definitely agree. Like when looking at which project I would like to support and like get involved, I don't go here and look at all the parameters. I'm more like, is the idea a good idea? Is there a business model? Is there like a team, like experienced team behind it?
There's also things like how much ICP you want to try and raise. Obviously, if you try to raise too much, for one, you might fail to hit your target. But also people may be less incentivized to take part because they might think, oh, I don't want to invest at a valuation that's really high. They might want to invest at a valuation here. And so by increasing the maximum amount of ICP you're raising, you may actually end up getting less ICP overall because people are less incentivized to take part. Like the Ghost SNS, I think they only tried to raise something like 20,000 ICP. I think it was something like that.
Yeah, I think you're
right.
Because
it's just like a meme.
They don't have anything in the treasury.
they sent it all out to fund liquidity pools anyway.
Okay.
But
everyone
will do it differently. Like in our one, we tried to raise 1 million ICP, and luckily we ended up actually raising that full 1 million. And some people were like, "Oh, you should have gone for more." And it's like, well, we weren't really trying to maximize the amount of ICP we got. We wanted to maximize the number of people who took part and like become as decentralized as possible. And this was just the initial kind of decentralization sale. This isn't these are our funds forever. Like if the OpenChat community decides that we want to like raise more ICP, we've still got a load of chat tokens in the treasury that we can do stuff with. And also we can raise funds through premium features. So we weren't really trying to maximize the amount of ICP. So we were very happy when we hit the 1 million. Like that was,
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. That was a good day.
Now maybe less pleasant questions, but how everything works on the legal side? Like, I think there is an entity called OpenChat Labs, right?
Yeah.
How, like, well, first, was it a concern for you, and how can you manage this concern?
Yeah, so the three of us, we all live in the UK, and we want to remain living in the UK. So, we don't want to live on some pirate ship off in international waters or whatever. So we wanted to make sure that we were doing everything legally. So yeah, in the run up to the SNS sale, we spoke to a team of lawyers, and they had worked with Binance and Coinbase, and they dropped other names. I can't remember, crypto.com or something. They'd worked with all these big players. And so we were like, right, we'll go with them. And what did they call it? We basically got a page from them that said that they, in their legal opinion, we aren't doing anything wrong. And essentially, with the SNS, it's a proposal to the NNS to start the sale. It's not the three of us individually clicking
Yeah.
start the sale. The sale is being approved by the ICP neuron holders. And then the funds being raised are never under our control. The fund, you know, that we raised 1 million ICP, and that 1 million ICP from day zero was under the control of the OpenChat SNS. And the OpenChat SNS is controlled by the OpenChat neuron holders, of which the three of us were just essentially normal. We were in exactly the same boat as everyone else. Like, we have no special privileges.
Yeah.
And so from a legal side, everything in that regard was fine. And so OpenChat Labs is just there because we still need like a foothold in the Web 2 world, because we still use AWS, unfortunately, for pushing notifications. And so, for example, we need to pay for an EC2 instance, like a VM in AWS that polls our notification canisters and then pushes out those notifications.
So that's how we have notification on mobile, right? Right now.
Yeah, mobile,
Okay.
desktop, all of it. It's all coming from there.
Okay.
But then also OpenChat Labs is there to pay the three of our salaries, because obviously we
Yeah.
want to be paid in pounds, not in ICP. And so OpenChat Labs it's a not-for-profit UK based company, and it it has an ICP account, and then it can cash out that it can transfer sorry, it can sell that ICP for pounds and then pay the three of us salaries as any other UK company would.
Okay.
But it also
Thanks.
pays for other costs, like it paid for the lawyers that we had originally, and it pays for like our um there's other little costs we have, like other services that we've used over time, or like our licenses for software and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah, thanks for going into details. It's
But you know, in the future, there
yeah.
could be other companies that are also founded to help drive OpenChat forward. Like OpenChat Labs is not, it doesn't itself own OpenChat.
Yeah.
In the same way that the Dfinity Foundation doesn't own the Internet Computer. The Internet Computer is just out there. OpenChat also is just out there as a public service that anyone can become a part owner of by just having a chat neuron.
Yeah, that's the beauty of
But
all of this.
you know, obviously this is still very early, and so it would be like right now there's not going to be a second team starting up their own company also driving OpenChat forward. But you know, maybe in 2 years, 3 years, as it becomes bigger, like this would be great. As we could decentralize the development power, that would be you know, it'd be really good.
Yeah, that's but actually that's kind of what I'm really, really interested in. And I haven't found a good answer. I don't think we have. We kind of need to find it. I was talking
Yeah.
with some students here in the bootcamp. So we are online, but we also have an edition in Lisbon with a few people here. And I was kind of talking about how do you make people contribute to your project in a kind
Yeah.
of DAO manner? I think we still haven't figured out like how to do it for like two different teams. And usually people are talking about like going for, billions of users. Of course, obviously every project wants to grow.
Yeah.
But I want to see like a concrete example of like, how can this work? How can
Well,
like this get set up? And I think we are not so far on the ICP ecosystem, but yeah.
thing is, if other developers they started contributing, then the OpenChat SNS could easily reward them through either chat tokens or ICP, in the same way that for OpenChat Labs, we have to make a proposal to receive funding from the OpenChat treasury. It's not
Yes.
guaranteed. So if other people started contributing, they can just make a proposal, and if their contributions were good, that proposal would get accepted, and then we would suddenly have a second team building.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
all of the tooling is there. We just, I think the three of us currently building OpenChat, I think we need to make it easier for other people to get involved. That our focus has been really on just hammering through our roadmap, building out these features.
I believe it's
But
also something that, I mean, will happen naturally if the incentives and like the context is right. Like, I
yeah,
think also maybe there is something with how we build applications on DIC. If we can compose different services at some point, we have, I don't know, it's hard to be concrete with this, but I kind of see yeah, like a contribution from an external team that needs a feature from OpenChat. They want to push it for their own other services, and they can do it. That would be like a first huge step.
like one potential place where we could do this quite
Actually,
easily is, oh
sorry,
yeah, go on.
sorry. Actually, sorry to interrupt. We had a discussion because so we have a solid state, so we do auditing for
Yeah,
canisters, and today the Sonic DAO like voted for paying the audit to solid state.
yeah, I
So I
saw that.
believe it's the first time that like a part of the treasury is used for paying an external entity for kind of contributing to the Sonic project in a sense.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, I
but
mean, we've paid a few external entities
okay,
in OpenChat, but not for contributing. They've been more for like community,
yeah,
running community engagement schemes, or we are sponsoring the Fantasy Premier League service.
okay,
So all of the football kits will say OpenChat on it. And that was the proposal that was made to the OpenChat SNS. And it was approved. And so the person building that Fantasy Premier League service has now received, I think it was like 1,500 ICP or something from the OpenChat treasury. And
okay,
in return, all of the kits will say OpenChat on them. But I think one place where we can potentially bring on external developers relatively easily, or much more easily than if they were to build on the core service, is we will soon support a lot of integrations via webhooks. So for example, if you use Slack, in Slack, you could have like a GitHub bot that would post a message every time there's like a commit or a pull request or whatever. And how that works is just in GitHub, you would be able to set up a webhook to say when this happens, make a call to this URL. And what we can do is we can support that and just say, in the same way in GitHub, you would say, when this happens, make a call to this URL. And this thing would be like an OpenChat integration, which would then anyone using OpenChat would then be able to enable within their chat. And then they would start receiving notifications like if there's a commit to the repository that they're using, then they'd receive an OpenChat message via this OpenChat integration. And we can have people build these integrations for like GitHub, GitLab, for whatever else you want. You might have like a news website that you follow and you want to receive a notification, any of these. And so it means that people would be able to contribute to OpenChat, but they can do it in a more like simple
yeah,
kind of, on the external layer, rather than having to kind of dive into the core
to the
workings
core
of it.
of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Which, but
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
obviously in the end, we'd love to have more and more people working on the core of it, but it's a bit easier to get started if you're just building on the outside.
Yeah, it's more concrete also. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And so that will be
Cool.
coming soon. And once we once we do have good support for those, that would be really nice. We could say for every integration you build, we'll give you like, a couple thousand, 5,000 chat tokens. Don't hold me to that number. I just pulled a number out the top of my head, but we can do something like that.
I think we have a few people listening and interested. Okay, so I have quite a few questions. Okay, so this one we already answered. What's your ICP development environment looks like in terms of tools, extension, services, extensions, I guess. Yeah, we saw that, but if you want to add a few things.
You said what's your
The question is,
ICP
what's
dev
your
environment?
ICP development environment? So I guess your coding environment looking like in terms of tools and services.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Well, so our backend is all built in Rust. And our front end is all TypeScript, and we use a framework called Svelte. Do they call it a framework? We use Svelte, which I think seems really nice.
It is. I'm also a big fan.
Really, yeah. Svelte 5 coming soon. Looks really nice as well. And so so just when we're doing our dev, I use a tool called Rust Rover, which is like a JetBrains IDE. The other two on the team just use Visual Studio Code for everything. I'm not sure if that was the question that they're kind of asking.
I think that was the question, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, a question. Push notifications are working in ICP. I have seen that the OpenChat applications offer users the option to activate notification, but I do not usually receive push notification. Is that functionality activated?
Yeah. There's an OpenChat notifications on my phone. It should be working reliably. It works for me reliably on my desktop as well. If it doesn't work reliably for you, if you could message me on OpenChat and we can debug into why it's not working. Yeah, my username on OpenChat is just Hamish. But yeah, send me the details, or you can raise it in the bug reports channel in the OpenChat community. Either one. But yeah, it would be good to debug into that, because it's working fine for me, it's quite hard to know if it's working well for everyone else unless people report it. So yeah, it'd be good to work through that to see why it's not working.
Can the new WebSocket feature replace the need for Amazon Web Services?
In its current form, no. The WebSocket feature is kind of just a layer in front of the internet computer, and normally when you make an update call to the internet computer, how it works is you make a single HTTP request to submit the update call, and then you keep polling to say, is the result ready? Is the result ready? Is the result ready? The WebSocket feature just removes that polling. So you would, and I'm pretty sure this is how it is, but I haven't actually used it myself. So someone correct me if this is wrong, but as far as I know, the WebSocket feature is you just open the WebSocket and then you send the call request via the WebSocket, and then it does the polling for you and just returns the result through the WebSocket. So there's no additional functionality that's added. It simplifies. Rather than having to poll, you just get the result through WebSocket. I think it's more of a proof of concept to if it works successfully, the goal would be to move the WebSocket to the boundary nodes so that you just open the connection to the boundary node and you can submit your call, and then the boundary node sends you back the response when it's ready. Someone correct me if that's not how it works, but we haven't dug into it too much yet, just because we've been busy with other things. Whereas the reason we need AWS for notifications is because to push notifications to a mobile device or a browser or whatever, when a user subscribes to notifications, they have a user specific endpoint, and you have to push the notifications to that endpoint. And if we did that using HTTP out calls from canisters, for one, it would be really expensive, but also it would mean that because the subnets are made up of 13 replicas, every notification would be received 13 times. What we've asked for from Dfinity is fire and forget HTTP out calls from canisters, which have absolutely no guarantees of delivery, no guarantees of content, and you wouldn't be able to do anything with the response, because what we'd want is that only, in your subnet of size 13, we would want it so that only one replica gets instructed to make the call. And obviously it can't do anything with the response because the other replicas couldn't trust. If this one says this was the response, all of the others would be like, well, how do I know that's the response?
Yeah.
So you can't do anything with the response, but we don't want to do anything with the response. And there's a lot of use cases for this. Like logging. If we had something like Grafana, Prometheus, where we would just fire all of our logs and our metrics to it using fire and forget HTTP out calls from canisters, it doesn't matter that some of them may fail. Some of them may not get sent because a replica might be down. Doesn't matter. As long as the vast majority of them work, like, 99 point whatever % of them work, and they're cheap, and we don't rely on any off-chain services, that's a massive win. And so that's what we want. And once we have that, we would be able to remove AWS entirely.
Cool. Okay, so still a lot of work to be done on the ICP protocol. Okay, I have quite a few questions. Or what means do you use to attract non-ICP users? Yeah, good question.
Yeah, we don't really. So we really haven't been pushing much marketing, because there's still quite a lot of stuff we want to build out on our side. And then we would spend some of the treasury funds. We would propose to the SNS to spend some of the treasury funds on doing marketing. Because what we don't want is, we don't want to spend a lot of the funds in the treasury. People, get 100,000 more users. They all register, they use it once, and they never come back. So what we want is, we want to have things like end-to-end encryption in place, voice and video calls. There needs to be quite a lot of optimizations on the front end to make the initial loading quicker. Like, very soon, Dfinity are going to be removing the service worker.
Yeah.
And so it means just the initial load will be much quicker. And like, people need stuff to load quickly. If you hit OpenChat, if you go on oc.app and it takes 5 seconds to load, people are like, I'm out. So it needs to be really quick.
Only the curious and the ICP kind of
so
people.
In answer to that question, we really haven't pushed for people outside of ICP system, and we haven't really done much to get people. All we do is tweet, but we have done a few community, like, what do they call it? Kind of, people would run little marketing campaigns, and we would give them some chat tokens from the treasury, or sometimes we've had magazine publications reach out, and we would work with them to come up with a press release. But really, we haven't done much. We've just been fully focused on the development side of it. Like, the three of us, our background is just development. So this is quite new to us, having to do the full end-to-end of running a business. But we're kind of hoping that we focus completely on the dev side and we get that as good as we can, and then hopefully the rest will fall into place. We'll see. But we probably do need the next role that we probably need to take on in our team is probably like a community manager.
I guess there is a time for everything, and
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have three last questions actually. Are there other canisters on the same subnet as OpenChat from other projects? Is it possible that a project could create a canister on the same subnet and also run into some of these subnet issues due to OpenChat creating so many canisters?
No. So back before mainnet launch, Dfinity gave all of the projects who were building at the time their own subnets. So that was like us, Discover, District. There were about 5, I think, and they were each of them were given their own subnet. And when anyone wants to create a canister, like if you go to the NNS app and click to create a canister, what happens is you send ICP to the Cycles minting canister. The Cycles minting canister will then, based on your principal, will create a canister for you on a random subnet that your principal is whitelisted to create canisters on. So for the 2 subnets that OpenChat is on, there's only one principal that can create canisters on those 2 subnets, and it's one that OpenChat controls. So no one else can create canisters on those subnets. A canister on a subnet can always create another one co-located on the same subnet, but no one who's not already got a foothold on the subnet could create one on there. But I think this is kind of a good thing, like because it means that we OpenChat are able to fully utilize, like we will 100% utilize those subnets, and when they are full, we can then start fully utilizing the next, and then fully utilizing the next. I think this is kind of the model that all mass scale apps are probably going to end up having to do.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. So I think you already answered, but how did you get funding in the early stages of OpenChat?
Yeah, so because we joined way back before mainnet launch. When I say joined, as in we joined the ecosystem way before mainnet launch. Dfinity we were basically contracted to Dfinity to build OpenChat. So Dom had reached out to one of the other co-founders, Matt, because they had worked together on lots of stuff, and he basically said to Matt, like, look, come up with an idea of something to build on here, and if it looks good, we will fund it. And Matt told me, and we were like, let's definitely build a chat app. It's ripe for disruption because no one trusts Facebook, and the main chat app is WhatsApp, and they're just selling your data. We were like, look, this is perfect. It doesn't matter that there's a 2-second latency when you're sending a text message. And so we immediately came up with building a chat app. We built it for 2 weeks or so, and then demoed a really bad version of it to Dom, and he was like, yes, we'll fund you. And then we've been building it ever since. So they funded us up until the SNS launch, and from that point on, we've been getting, our salaries have been essentially paid out of the ICP that OpenChat has in its treasury. And obviously that's currently, the treasury is coming down each time we request payment from it, and it's not really going up by much. But hopefully, as our user base grows and more people are paying for premium features, like in 2 years, 3 years, whatever, like who knows how long it will take, but ideally OpenChat would be more than covering its own costs.
Yeah. And the last question we had was, do you use Docker for development environments?
No. We do use Docker for creating deterministic builds. So because we want to be able to verify, and we need anyone to be able to verify exactly which code is running in the canister. We need it so that people can deterministically build the OpenChat code base, and then they can look at the hash of the WASM that is output when they build it, and they can say, yes, this matches what's running in the canister. So that they know that when we, like every time we make an upgrade proposal, we will say, we are upgrading this canister to the code at this commit. And anyone can then run our build script
and verify
at that commit. And then if they run a SHA-256 on the WASM, it will match, because we've set up Docker to, pull in all of the external dependencies at fixed versions. And so everything happens deterministically.
So yeah, for everyone listening, basically you should be able to go to any OpenChat canister and I guess build this. It's not as easy as it seems, but if you build the code, and then compare the hash that you have with the hash that you see here, you can be certain that basically OpenChat has the code that is open source running on their canisters.
So
which is
it's kind of to verify the code running in a canister, you have to first trust the internet computer, because the internet computer could output anything here.
Yes.
It's the hash. But so there's kind of a chain of trust all the way down. So you first have to trust the output of the internet computer. And if you trust the output of the internet computer, then you can trust that OpenChat is also running the same code that it says it is.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Cool.
And I'm sure the Dfinity crypto people will give you the steps that you need to take to trust, like to verify that the internet computer is also itself running the code it says it is. It's kind of, you can go all the way down.
Yeah, and even I mean, we can go really deep with those discussions. Like,
yeah.
Do I trust? I mean, no one is checking all the cryptography and the maths, but that's that's a game of building more and more trust. Cool, thanks. I've learned a lot actually. So yeah, thank you very much. And I wish the best for OpenChat. Keep building. We need more like expertise going out, because you guys have like built so many things, and I have so many questions from the bootcamps and people trying to build on DIC about how to build a multi-canister architecture, and like how to verify code, like all of what we've talked about. Keep sharing that.
Yeah, no, it's been fun. And if ever you have more questions, or just drop me a message on OpenChat.
Of course.
Yeah.
By the way, everyone, I created the OpenChat, like, so it's kind of hidden in our Discord, but you have this channel I just created. You can share your OpenChat handle. So I will share mine actually. Let me see. I think it's just Seb. But
you must have got that a long time ago.
Yeah.
We don't, usernames can't be I think minimum length is 5 now.
Is it this one right? Is this one right?
I don't know, you're sharing just Discord, not the whole.
Okay. Let me see. So it's in the here, right?
Yeah, nice. Don't ever, if you update that, you'll never be able to get it back to 3. So don't.
Okay, yeah, I'll keep it preciously. This is okay. Cool. Yeah. All right. Thanks. So we have a mentorship session actually just now, everyone. So I'll quit this one and move to the next call. And tomorrow we have actually the team behind WebSocket that will come. So we talk about this WebSocket implementation. I haven't had time to dive into it, but tomorrow we'll have a session with the Massimo and Alexi that are behind it. So we'll talk about that. Thank you, Amish, and good afternoon. See you.
Thank you. Yeah. See ya.
Bye.